Throughout my show, I've interviewed a lot of great financial professionals who have shared their incredible journeys. We've talked about their struggles and the lessons they've learned to become some of the top leaders in the industry. This week, we're revisiting my conversation with leadership of one of Barnum's top performing teams. You're going to hear from Managing Partner Jim Iron, Senior Partner Matt Paulsen, and Partner Franco Piscitelli of Barnum Capital Management Team, as they share their success in the industry and the importance of having a long-term vision. Enjoy, and thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins.
Success doesn't come overnight, as Franco, Jim, and Matt can attest. In each of their episodes, they discussed what got them interested in the world of finance, what brought them to Barnum, and the unique challenges of getting started in this business. Partner Franco Piscitelli.
How did you get started in the business? And give us get us going where you started and how you got to where you are today.
Well, it's a good question. And, I'd like to start at the beginning if that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
I'm the son of Italian immigrants. My parents had come here to America, from Italy in the 70s. My brothers were all born in Italy. So I was sort of the first American born here. And my mother had a sister who was already here in the U.S. And she kind of convinced my mom to come over, with my brothers to come to America for a better life. And, they were tobacco farmers in Italy. So, very humble background. And so to come here and, to a new country and, not know the language and kind of start from scratch, I learned a lot from that story growing up as a kid. I got to hear all about their struggles in Italy and what they had to come through and, to get to America and obviously, the struggles that they had, when they got here. I remember as a young 8, 9, 10-year-old, my mother would sit me down at the kitchen table and, basically teach me about a budget and cash flow and how to write checks and the savings account. And she basically had the equivalent of a third grade education, back in Italy, the young girl. And, came to a whole new country and was able to figure out the financial system and taught that to me at a young age. Just start understand the value of a dollar, saving and serving, being obviously cautious with tight budget and, a lot of mouths to feed. And, my mother cleaned houses. My father, worked in factories. So, very hard workers. My brothers all worked and they were in different, businesses, who was an electrician or an accountant and all that. So just kind of learning from all of them growing up as a kid. And I had a lot of influences from them, basically have kind of a little piece of all my brothers and all the different things that they did throughout their lives. And eventually I ended up going to work for my aunt, who had built a deli catering business here in the U.S. in town where I grew up. And I remember as a little kid, I wanted to go work there so bad. It's not like a form of punishment for me. I wanted to work. I wanted to go earn a paycheck. And I really enjoyed, all the fun stuff working in the deli with my aunt. And, she would teach me about business. And I learned about profits and revenues and expenses and how much it costs to build a dish for a catering job, or, how to work the cash register, or how to make sure, the labels on the products on the shelves are all facing the correct way so people could see, what they're buying. So all these little things I learned as a kid, in that deli, I think really was a big foundation for me as I grew up. Wanted to get into business and have my own business. I thought I would go into culinary, whether it was owning a restaurant or a deli. And eventually ended up working with my brother, who was a chef. And I thought maybe we were going to start a business together and run a restaurant and all that. And eventually, I kind of got disillusioned with maybe the restaurant world. It's a very tough business. So you'll learn a lot. I learned a lot, obviously, and it's very hard work. And it's a lot of sacrifice and very similar to what we do in our industry. But, it's just different. And I just kind of felt myself being more in a corporate setting and sort of more of a business professional type of setting, and started to go to work, college, and taking classes at night after I graduated high school. I went to, just work for a couple of years, in the restaurant business. And then eventually, started going to school, and I was working full time and taking classes full time, going to school and getting my Bachelor of Arts in Economics, and started to go on this path of maybe doing something in finance or business related. industry, and actually graduated and came out and said, okay, well, now what? And I was interviewing in different industries and opportunities, and I started finding myself interviewing financial services, and it kind of came all back home where, okay, I like personal finance. I had a good strong foundation with finance and math, and having all that early knowledge from my mother and my aunt as a young kid, and really felt, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to help people with their planning. I want them to help them understand their money, how to make it grow, how to make it last, how to protect it, how to preserve it, how to make it last for future generations, and became what I wanted to do. So eventually, you start to take these aptitude tests for the industry and to see if it's something that based on how you take that test, if it's something that you're going to be an industry for you. And I didn't really do well on those aptitude tests for whatever reason. It didn't seem like I'd be a good match for this industry, and so I became disillusioned with that. I said, oh, maybe this isn't for me, and I thought maybe I'd check out other industries and maybe look around. And thankfully at the time, Jim Ian, my partner, and other managers too, were very helpful in making me understand the opportunities that was in this industry and what I could achieve, and not to worry about the aptitude test, not really anything of any significance. And I'm glad they obviously convinced me to stick it out. And so I came to Barnum and I started my career there. And it was kind of a long journey to get there, but that's how I ended up here.
Managing partner Jim Ian.
Early on, I wanted to have success, and I wanted it quickly. All right. And I got it pretty quickly. But like everybody, it required tremendous effort. You had to cast off discouragement because there's a fair amount of rejection, specifically early on, in the way you build your practice and market much more globally. And you have to have the mental toughness to really push through that. And as we all know, I mean, we provide such a great service and tremendous value to the people that we serve. And so for those that choose not to take on, our services and build a relationship with us, you have to just understand that that's okay. Yep. And that you just keep trudging along and stick to your guns. So I think just certainly being patient, casting off discouragement, and having the mental strength to see the forest through the trees and know that there's tremendous opportunity to do great work if you just invest the time.
Senior partner Matt Paulsen.
Plenty of challenges, a lot of adversity over the years. I mean, I started, as you said, 22, just 23 years old. I looked like I was 15.
Yes.
Clients were quick to tell me that. And so, I'm out there in the field. In those days, everything was face to face at someone's kitchen table or at their place of business. And you're asking them to trust you with their life savings.
Yeah.
That in and of itself was a challenge. And that was probably my biggest concern, in starting down this career path. My father passed away when I was studying for my Series 7. That was devastating.
Yeah.
But failure was not an option for me. I mean, there was absolutely no way in the world I was going to fail in this profession because it's what I wanted.
It's amazing.
So sure, plenty of challenges, and I've always felt as though you have to reflect, take a step back, and think about the ways that you can sort of grow personally and professionally from these different challenges. The financial crisis of 2007 and 2008, right? I had just sort of gotten on my feet. Things were going quite well. And then just this devastating pullback in the financial markets that impacted, the individuals and families that I was working with at the time.
Yeah, listen, and I'm sure that with that happening with your dad, I'm sure that brought a lot of challenges and different things to the family.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it gave you the strength to go help more people. And, I think that's became even though it was probably your calling anyway, I think that sped it up for you.
Undoubtedly, right? I saw the impact, obviously emotionally, but for purposes of the conversation today, right, financially on my mom. And in many cases, he had built this really successful big business. So in many cases, there was great planning, but there were gaps. And those gaps became so apparent in a unfortunate situation like that. And I was determined to make sure that when I was talking with, prospective clients, that I was doing everything in my power to make sure that we were closing up all of their planning gaps.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm on a mission right now to make sure that that doesn't happen to a family. And as this industry has gotten away from the emotional side of the business, and obviously you have two sides, right? You have can you retire and have enough money to not outlive the lifestyle you want? And then do you have all the protections you have? And I think that growing up in the business, I really grew up on the protection side with the emotion. And there's emotion on the other side too.
Sure.
Because if you don't get there, that's a long 20, 30, 40 years of retirement if you're just scraping by. So I share that mission, and I always want to do my part to make that well. So I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you. Because when I took this role, it was really scary for me becoming a CEO and coming out of the field. And I was only in the field for 2.5 years, but I felt I was impacting the end user. And now I have to do it through advisors and staff like I have. And it gives me great strength to watch people like you do that. So thank you for that.
Sure. And what's actually funny was, I had effectively signed on with another firm. And there was a manager that was part of Barnum at the time who had called me and said, you really need to come have a meeting with us. By the way, we're even closer than that other firm. So I said, sure, why not? And when he sort of outlined for me the resources that were available here, the training program that was available here, the fact that it was a holistic focus on both the protection side and the investment side, and working in all these other, aspects of financial planning, it didn't take me but, a minute to make that decision. And my goodness, am I thankful that I made the decision I did.
So am I. So thank you for that.
Managing partner, Jim Ian.
Was there a point that it clicked, or was that right? Did it click right when you were 25 and you went to that group seminar? Or was there a point where you're like, all right, this is my career. I know I'm going to get to whatever, and I know that number and that growth trajectory always changes as the world changes. But was there a point, like a turning point in your career where you're like, damn, I made the right decision and I'm full speed ahead and I know I'm never looking back?
Yeah, for me, Paul, that was probably when I found a home, right? I mean, in this industry, you see people that pop around and have spent time at a lot of different firms. And, listen, everybody has their own path. But early on for me, I think maybe it was maturity. Maybe it was that I had some early success, but people wanted me, and that felt good, right?
Yep.
You wanted, but that brought me from a firm that I was having a fair amount of success at to another firm to step into leadership and help develop an office down in Fairfield County in Connecticut. And then that area of that company was going to be sold, and I was really concerned about popping in onto a third firm in a 4-year period of time. So that brought me or caused me to really move to another area of the country to work for that same company, but in a different area of the industry. So long story short, 4 years doing a lot of different things, a lot of development, but I didn't figure it out yet, clearly. I didn't figure out where my passion was and where I was going to have long-term success. And when I eventually came here to Barnum, and wherever that may be for somebody, I found my home, right? I knew that I had the resources, the leadership, the support, the product mix. I knew that I could really build a business here. So my advice to anybody as you think about, this career and development, it's about culture and it's about the environment that you're in. You can find product and people and platforms, everywhere, But once you find a home where there's that level of support and you feel like personally you can grow your practice here, I think that's where it obviously clicked for me, and that started to become quite significant.
That's great to hear, and thank you. It's interesting because when you don't have the home, and I've never heard someone say it like that as that turning point, but I understand because you're not looking and you're not saying, oh, what's here, what's there, and what's the fastest way. You have comfort in knowing that, hey, if I do what I do, I can get to my vision. So that's really awesome.
Jim, Matt, and Franco joined forces to create Barnum Capital Management, a team that continues to grow and succeed year after year. On the show, they discussed with Paul how the team came together, as well as all of the benefits that can come from finding the right team. Partner Franco Piscitelli.
You have this entrepreneurial flair about you. And what's really cool about that is we tell people to be entrepreneurial, but then we ask them to then become an entrepreneur. They have to get to the next level as an advisor. You have to know how to run a business and become a business. And you've been able to do that. And it makes a lot of sense with some of the responsibilities you have on your team. Having that background is pretty cool. So let's talk about that. You started to talk about your partner, Jim, who's one of your partners, but let's back up a little bit. How was it from the get-go? How did it, you get in now, you went through this long journey, and did it click right away, or was it really hard? Or how was it when you first got started?
Yeah, I had, it was a slow beginning for sure. So I came into the business and, not really maybe understanding what financial planning was before, other than my basic knowledge of personal finance. And so, there was a little bit of a learning curve there. But I started, around 2005, and I remember walking in for my interview and I see Matthew Paulsen, who's now my current partner. I grew up with Matt in Brantford, where I grew up, or where we grew up, and graduated from high school together, and grew up as kids playing sports and kind of knew each other, as kids up through high school, and then went to college and kind of, parted ways. And, I was just surprised to see him that he was already here and been here for a couple of years. And so I was asking him about how things were going, and, he just gave me all the, great praise of this industry and of Barnum specifically, and all the great things that were happening. And obviously that helped, to see someone that I knew here already having success, was a big reason why I decided to stay on as well. And so at the time, we were all young advisors just getting started. Jim was, here for a couple of years, but he had many years of industry experience already. And he was sort of building a team, and running the office at the time, and building his practice, and managing young advisors like myself and Matt. And so we started working together almost very quickly, informally, as a team early on. I think Jim was looking for, some young advisors that were hungry, eager to learn, coachable, like you said, and that he can trust and work with. And so early on, we were, doing so much together, with other advisors as well. And so eventually it made sense, several years after, we formalized as a team, myself, Matt, and Jim.
How long were you guys working together before that actually happened?
It was about 4 or 5 years at least. Yeah.
So you guys you guys were doing a lot of joint work and sort of dating through this process before you actually formalized it. And so I'm thinking that team probably formalized in 2010, 11, around there, maybe 5 years.
Exactly.
And tell me, how was that when you were going through the process and working with Jim and Matt? But were you really focused on, I really want to get on this team, I want to be part of this? And did that help drive you during the process of proving that, you had the skill sets that he would actually say, come partner with me?
Yeah, it is what you're saying. No, for sure. And, because we had already worked together for so many years, it was almost kind of natural. And at that time, actually, there weren't many teams yet. I don't know if we were the first team, but we were one of the first teams at Barnum. And, teaming in the industry just was something new that was starting to take root. And so we were at the forefront of all that. I think it was more, just a natural progression, that we were going to, that we formalized as a team. I knew, working with Jim and, just being an incredible business person and just, all his knowledge and experience and what he was able to offer. And obviously his mentorship, those early years were, incredibly impactful early on for myself. And then, Matt, who I always say is, probably the smartest person, I know. And it just made sense for all three of us to work together. We all have our own specialties and traits and characteristics that I think, make our team as great as it is. No, it was all very natural and it worked out very well.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, you went kind of where I was thinking of going next is when you think of mentorship, because I think it's really hard today especially today, 20 years ago is probably less hard, but it's still hard. But today there's so many products and so diverse business that it's really hard, I think, to get started and not have someone mentor or mentors. How did that help you? Because it sounds like you kind of never were really a solo practitioner. You were really getting mentored from day one from Jim and Matt also. So do you think that was a huge benefit for you from a learning curve standpoint?
Yeah, it definitely was. I had great mentorship early on, like I said, with Jim and Matt, for a good amount. And, what they were able to provide me, as I said, just unbelievable amounts of years of experience for me to try to start from scratch and do that on my own. And, not have any support. I can't imagine continued on without that support. It obviously helps to have, a great business person like Jim, helping you and guiding you and early on, because you learn so much and there's just so much in this industry. It's impossible to know it all day one. Like you said, I was always very coachable, and I think Jim picked up on that. And, I knew he was someone who was doing very well and smart and had all the knowledge. And I said, well, if there's anybody I'm going to learn from and try to emulate, why not Jim? And that's really where it started from in the beginning. I'm very humble when it comes to these things. I always want to try to learn and grow from someone else, whatever they're doing that works and is doing, is working for them. I want to try to use that or I can. And that's early on really what I try to do with Jim.
Yeah. And what I think is really amazing knowing, having Matt on the show once already and Jim, and knowing your guys' background, I think it's really important for people that are listening here, young advisors and even veteran producers. If you're building a team, you have to have like-minded people. And I think one of the things that really hurts teams is work habits. And I know that, from a work habit standpoint, obviously it took 5 years for you to formalize it, but you get to see the person's value system and integrity through that process. And I think being a hard worker is one that, is important for teaming. So make sure you pay attention to the signs there and people do that. And for the young advisors that are listening, if you're a solo practitioner, you want to get on a team, think of it as almost building your resume, getting your resume built so that these senior advisors see that. And 1 + 1 will equal 3 if you have the right skill sets with each other.
Senior partner, Matt Paulsen.
When I think about the business we built, you spoke about my partner, Jim, and I have another partner, Franco. We've all been working together for almost 20 years. We're all very sort of process oriented and disciplined and have been that way since day one. And as the business continues to build, there need to be, forms of checks and balances. We need to have ways to streamline all of these different processes. And without technology, that would be impossible. And the consequences are too significant. You can't make a mistake in this business, right? In many cases, there aren't any do-overs if you make a mistake. We take that very seriously and we lean on and leverage technology to help us in that capacity, in all aspects of the business.
It's awesome. So from a mindset perspective, right? You're 23, it's like, oh my God, I just got to survive. I got to get to year 1, year 2, year 3. But, today you guys probably have a couple of thousand clients plus as a team and you have 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
How has your mindset shifted when you come in each day to what you're trying to accomplish from when you were to where you are?
Yeah. I remember you speaking to us early on and talking about the importance of surrounding yourself with great talent. The members of our team, each in their own unique way, are so incredibly talented and have unique skill sets. And that's everything, right, to us and to growing this business. It's a great source of pride when clients tell me when we're speaking sort of personally and individually, just how much they appreciate, any member of the team that they had interacted with. And they tell me what a great experience they've had. And I think that's what's helped us to grow. So when I think about the future, it's continuing to mentor and help out the other members of my team grow professionally. I think that's what's going to help sort of take us to the next level.
Yeah, it's interesting. My dad taught me that all those isms are around because they stood the test of time. So The more you give, the more you get.
Right.
It's real. And this is an industry sometimes that people feel like they're competing with each other. But here at Barnum, we have a culture that says, if you help us grow,
right,
then we have more resources and we all grow together. And you're living that each day. And I love hearing that, Matt. Thank you for what you're doing.
Managing partner, Jim Ian.
I embraced teaming day one. You're right. I mean, being in that sales management leadership role, I had the pick and litter. You talk about spending time with people belly to belly, in the field and early career, those very long days and a lot of time out on the road. I mean, the world has changed dramatically and we're much more efficient now in this with leveraging technology. But I built great relationships with advisors. And so when I was making that transition, it was very easy to identify a couple of the folks that I just had great connection with. Because I'll start there. I mean, you need to really trust each other, really have aligned visions, really have aligned work disciplines, because this is your work family. You spend tremendous amounts of time with them. And so early on, these two partners of mine, we grew and developed a team. And I think teaming is future of the industry. Obviously, many people have now adopted teaming, but I hope to see more of it because you can't be all things to all people. And this can be a lonely business, right? When you're on an island on your own, it can be lonely. And I think it dampens development, all right? Because you have to be super self-disciplined as an individual advisor to continue to grow, learn, continue to get better. I mean, it works for plenty of people, but for me, I really needed the support of working with others. It could help my own development, and I know it helped their development. And when you look at the deliverable to the client, I mean, it's amazing. A client understands the depth that stands behind me. So if I work directly with an individual client, and say it, I'm in my early 50s, right? I have two partners that are, 10 years younger than me by design. They know that there's continuity. And I think that's going to become even more important as I get older, as I get older. And
I agree.
Yeah,
I call that the silent objection, right? They might not say it, but they're thinking it.
Sure. Yep. So it's been an awesome process. And, we were doing some planning the other day and we looked at our growth and, revenue has doubled in 5 years. AUM has tripled. The opportunity to grow together and to leverage each other's strengths is, I think, what's ensured all of our success, so far to date.
As we all know, life isn't about just achievements in one's career, but also your successes outside of the workplace. Family, friends, and personal health, both physical and mental, all play a role in your accomplishments at life, both in the office and beyond. Matt, Franco, and Jim discussed with Paul about how the work you do outside the workplace is just as important. Partner Franco Piscitelli.
you've went on this journey probably the last 5 or 6 years where not only you've been a great husband and a great dad, but you've really taken your fitness level in terms of you as a person. I remember people used to give you a hard time about you and not being in the shape you are. And today you're in really great shape. And I want to understand what happened and why you did that, because I think that's super important for people to understand, because people get obsessed with work sometimes and they forget some of the things that were important to them. And I think if you check all those boxes personally, your professional gets better, vice versa. If you do all the professional one, hopefully your personal gets better. So why don't you share kind of what you did? Because I think it's important, because that your discipline and drive.
I agree 100%. And no, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think it has a big part of, maybe the success over the last couple of years. But you say it all the time, being a corporate athlete. And I think fitness is a big part of that. I grew up an athlete like yourself. I played soccer, through high school. I'm guessing you were probably a better baseball player than I was a soccer player. I don't know. I was captain my senior year. I was 4-year varsity starter, all that, but never really played beyond. I wasn't really any sort of phenomenal all-star soccer player. I had a lot of drive, desire, hunger. Again, very disciplined, very coachable, right? Even through the sports as well. So it all translated, to all different parts of my life. But so I always kind of had that athletic mentality growing up, and to have a lot of mental toughness and to be active and to all that. So yeah, a couple of years ago, wasn't happy with where things were. I'm involved in my son's soccer. I coached one of his teams, and I really wanted to be more active and practicing with them. And so that was really the drive for me to sort of change my fitness at the time. And now I spend the first hour of the day doing the hardest thing that you'll do all day, right? You hear other people speak about that all the time. And I think that just changes your mindset for the rest of the day. When you've done an hour, whether it's a strength workout or cardio, whatever it might be, you can get that done, get it going, get your mind right, get you set for the rest of the day. I think you just have a much better day. You have much more energy, you're much more focused. You get a lot more done. You think you don't have the time, but you really do. I wake up at 5:30, maybe 5:45, depends if I hit the snooze one button once or twice. But I try to be up by 5:45, and I know you're up earlier, right, Paul? And Kobe was up at 4 a.m. every morning, right? He's usually in the gym before the earliest person gets in the gym. So I know even 5:30 is not that early, believe it or not, for a lot of people. So getting up early, getting that done. I've even been meditating now for the last year or so. My wife says it's not working, but it takes time. So I'm willing to continue to try meditating. I think that's very helpful too.
Managing partner, Jim Ian.
The name of the show, everybody, is, small steps, big wins. And if you look at Jim, he's been just taking those along the way, and he's continued to build on top of build by taking those small steps and getting big wins. So, when we think about winning, what's the future for Jim Ian and your team? Like, where's your mindset right now? And, where's it going? If I bring you back in 5 years, what are you going to tell me?
Paul, we want to continue to do a great job for our existing clients. We want to meet new people that we can help and support. And we want to get better at our craft, right? I think that what's most important, I don't care if you're 2 years in the business or 25 years in the business, if you think you've arrived, right, and you think you know everything, I would tell you that's a problem. This is an industry. That's why it's exciting, is that it changes very quickly. And so you have to be a lifelong learner. So I want to keep learning. I want to keep getting better. I want to keep growing. At the same time, I'm just jazzed about seeing the development of younger advisors. Paul, I hate to say it, like I used to be the young guy here. Now I'm one of the old guys, right? I don't know what happened. You did that. But the way that our firm has been built, and there's successful people at all ages, but to see, all the young people having success, and for me to also have some direct involvement with some of those young people. I hope in 5 years I've helped more of those younger advisors and have partnered with more of those younger advisors to see them develop and Paul, I don't know. I mean, I just want to keep doing more and keep this thing going. And, with that being said, finding some balance to ensure that your business is successful, but you also stay physically and mentally healthy and strong so you can be in this industry for a really, really long time. Because that's another exciting part of this is that, we don't want to just stop at 65. That isn't something that is part of our plan.
Senior Partner Matt Paulsen.
So now, fast forward, a lot has changed for you. You start out as a single guy. Now you're married. You have 3 beautiful children, an amazing wife. And how do you juggle the mental aspect of being this, great husband and great dad, but running this huge business? You didn't have that challenge when you were 25.
Right.
You fast forward today and, it's great to talk about business all the time and all the tactics and strategies you're doing, but life is life. And you do this so you could ultimately enjoy your life too. So how are you handling that?
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. I personally have to be very sort of thoughtful about that. And I have to mention just how important a role my wife, Terry, has played in sort of,
All right,
tough.
That's okay. Yeah.
In my success, right? And in our success. Because when I started at 23 years old, it was a lot of work, right? Long days. And she was behind me 100%.
Yeah. And you need that, Matt, to, if you don't have that, it's very hard to grow.
Right. No doubt. And so for well over a decade, it was just just this massive commitment of time to the business, right? Coming home at night and just studying for different designations, continue to learn about all aspects of the business and the industry. We're fortunate and very blessed to have 3 amazing children. And so now, I want to be really thoughtful about being present with them, giving back to my family, giving back to my team, and obviously continuing to serve as best as I possibly can my clients. Yep. And, that takes work.
Yeah, it does. And you have to be very intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you're doing a great job at it. Yeah, so the reason I bring it up is when you think of a role model for the future generation, that's what they have to see. There's a great Vince Lombardi saying that they asked him, hey, how are you winning all these championships? And he said, you create these great football players. And he said, no, I create these great men.
Right.
And when I look at, our business and my role as a CEO is to help with that. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have that, that business usually doesn't work.
Right.
And if you don't have that support, it's very hard.
100%.
It happens sometimes.
Right.
But it's not the norm. So really good stuff. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.